So welcome back to my channel. This is Dom and the first game in the new battle room, boot room, bunker. Still going to decide what I'm going to call it. Some fantastic suggestions from people, but I still haven't decided. So but I thought I'd christen it. Well, Jono and I had a game the other day using half the table to play some Second World War, just to try out some battle group rules, but I was really hankering after having a Napoleonic game and I've managed to find a few hours here and there to play one, and so I've set the table up. A sort of quasi, I don't know, 1813 Napoleonic game, using the full 8x6 table. And it does look good. I've used a lot of my terrain. Vast majorities are from Last Valley. So the scenario is a combined Russo-Swedish force is trying to hold these twin villages here. So I've got where the church is and the other house is basically represent two sort of towns, or two built up areas, shall we say. Each can hold one battalion and confers appropriate cover and what have you. So probably be quite a tough nut to crack. So I've got two Swedish battalions installed, one in each of those. There's a half battery of guns down by the bridge here on the edge of the bank of the river. Another battalion in reserve in column. In the woods out here we've got a proper battery, foot battery, medium guns, and out there is a small unit of rifle-armed Jaegers. Coming down the road to their aid is a Russian column, Russian brigade. So we've got two large battalions here, a smaller battalion. Oh, they're not pointing in the right direction. That's not going to be helpful. And yeah, two smaller battalions, and then a grenadier battalion on the far side there. Now Russians, and a battery, obviously battery of heavy guns, I'm going to call them, position battery. So in the rules, the Russians basically can't take advantage of follow me orders unless they're from the same regiment. So they're not, but I'm saying this large one and this small one, this large one and this small one are the same regiment. So they're regiments or battalions 1 and 2 from the regiment. So they can benefit of coordinating together. So they've got to come to the Swedes' aid. Up against the Swedes, use the scary vision. So opportunity to get my Cleve-Bergs out. I've got 1, 2 battalions, a small skirmish battalion there, battery of guns, 1, 2, 3 more battalions of infantry who've got to assault that village. And then on the left wing we've got a French brigade. So we've got some more voltigeurs as a light unit, small unit, 1, 2, hang on, get this right. So 1, this is a line battalion. I don't know my French. Nope, that's a light battalion. So light battalion, line battalion, light battalion, line, and a gun battery, basically to try and swing round this river. The river is passable to infantry, but not guns, unless you cross at the ford or the bridge over there in the distance there. French will have reinforcements. Another brigade at least will be coming on. I don't know about the Swedo-Russians. I actually haven't got any more Swedes or any more Russians for now, so probably they won't get any reinforcements, and given the fact their objective is to hold the two villages there, it's going to be a tough nut for the French to crack, I think, but we'll see. Anyway, that's the setup. We're going to be playing I'm going to be playing Black Powder. I'm going to play it over a few days probably, and I'll bring you the action. So, the first move was an interesting one for the French side. First move was this Berg unit, which actually got 3 moves, moved twice and then formed into line. Is right in the face of those light infantry. I think there's a volley coming. His compatriot only managed to follow up 1, which was a bit of a shame. And the skirmishers likewise were a little bit tardy, moving into the wood at the back there. The gun battery tried to move forward and unlimber, but failed, only just moved forward once. Round about here, these formations all moved forward as a group. They got 2 moves. Well, I think they got 1, but they also get 1 because they're in attack columns. But were slowed by all the terrain there, so they've not quite got as far forward as they like. Over on this flank, however, the French light infantry Voltigeur unit went flying off 3 moves because it isn't slowed because it's in skirmish order. It flew up through the table and is dominating that end of the table already. 3 columns following it also got 3 moves because the French get pas de charge, which means they're almost guaranteed to get 2 moves when they're in attack column. And so they moved forward. They were just slowed by all the hedges and the woods here. But not quite such a successful story with these other 2 battalions. I suppose because they're freshly painted. They blundered and got a move to the right. So that's what they did. And again, the gun battery tried to move 2 moves, 1 being unlimber, but failed that. Just managed to move the once and hasn't unlimbered yet. So we've got a bit of shooting. I don't think anything on the French side has got anything to fire at. Guns aren't deployed yet. So we're down to really just this line to fire at the voltigeurs, at the the skirmishers. So a Berg infantry regiment has shooting factor of 3, or 3 dice, sorry. So firing here, they get 3 dice. They are within 6 inches, which gets them +1. So they would be normally 4s to hit. Goes up to 3s to hit. But this is a skirmish target, which makes it back to 4s again. So 3 dice needing 4s. Puts a disordering hit and 1 other hit on the units. That's 2 wounds on this light infantry unit already. And a disorder, which is a little bit concerning for the Swedish Jaegers already. They may have to retire straight away from that hill position. I thought they might hold a little bit. Yeah, I'll get a marker and I shall do the Allied moves. Spot the obvious mistake, I forgot to do a rally roll. So they are Swedish light infantry, which I'm treating as Jaegers from the army list. So they have a 4+ morale check. So they've saved 1. So they only lost 1 man, but they are disordered. Right, back after the Allied move. So in the Allied turn, real mixed bag. The Russians got very aggressive, and this regiment, 2 battalions, did a group follow me order and got 3 moves. And not far away from the French columns there, the Grenadiers moved into the gap, only got 1 move, but moved there. The cannons moved up on the hill and unlimbered, which was nice. This battalion was aiming to get into this built-up area, but only got 1 move, so failed to get there. But even worse, its compatriot here tried to form down into column of march to go down the road and then form into line at the end, but failed. So failed command roll. That was that. So mixed bad for the Russians. Out on the Swedish flank, obviously not much is happening here because they're defending. What we did do is move the reserve battalion across just in case. And I've been umming and ahhing what to do with these disordered Jaegers, whether they should stick it out or whether they should run back. And I think I'm going to stick it out. Maybe a mistake, but we shall see. Time will tell. Actually, no, I am going to pull them back. I am definitely going to pull them back. They're going to run back into the woods. because it would be daft to yeah. So I'm going to run them back into the woods. Be daft to lose a unit, because next turn all the French would have to do is to charge them, and that's a Jaeger unit down, and really can ill afford to lose a unit so quickly. So they're pulling back, which means they can't get rid of the disorder this turn, but hopefully means they can live to fight another day. So we've got shooting to do now, so let me sort that out. So I don't think these Jaegers can actually see, because they've got a great hill in the way, so that will prevent them firing. However, these cannons, they can see the end of that line, so I think that's going to be their priority target. So let's see what goes on. Oops. There we go. Let's see what we can do with this. So range is going to be 15 inches, sorry. For medium gun, gives me 2 dice, I think. Yeah, 2 dice. Hitting on a 4. Hitting on 4. 2 dice hitting on 4s. Rolled a 6. So that's a disordering hit. They will save on now a 6 because they've been hit by artillery. So that is a wound on them, and they are disordered. So I think that made that decision to pull back by the lights a good one to make, because now these guys won't be able to move forward. In the built-up area here, let's see if we've got a shot. Oops. So in the built-up area here, they've got a shot. Yeah, just about. They can fire out of a side of a building. Maximum of 2 per facing. So it's the only target they've got. It's going to be 4s to hit. 4s to hit. 2 more hits, blimey. Including another disorder, but they've already got it. Now these save on 4. Save 1, lost 1. So this Rhineland unit, Berg unit, has already suffered 2 losses. Moving ahead, I don't think anything else from the other buildings can see. So we've just got this gun here, solitary gun. It's a half battery, I'm treating it as. Its closest target is probably the voltigeurs over there, but they're an obscured target, so I don't have to fire at them. But whatever I fire at is going to be in a lot of cover. So let me see what the range is. So from that gun to this column is 32 inches. For a smoothbore, that's within range, so it's basically going to get 1 dice. Firing at that middle column, 1 dice, needing a 5 because it's long range. And rolls a 3, so that's a miss. And I think that's the end of turn 1. Okay, so that was a very well, poor turn for the French, that's all you can say. Over here, this battalion obviously couldn't go anywhere because it was disordered. That can come off now, because it's not going to be firing. The voltigeurs, however, moved up very aggressively, and now within range to exchange fire into the buildings. The artillery battery unlimbered, but the column here failed its initiative move to move forward. And I thought, well, the French have got all the advantages with pas de charge, so they probably won't need the army commander. So instead, I used the army commander over here with the Cleve-Bergs to get this formation moving forward. They got 1 move, which was great. But then when I moved on to the French, the first move was to unlimber the guns, which was successful. And then when I tried to move one of the infantry columns there across into the woods, into the orchard area, form up, it failed through an 11, even with +2 for pas de charge, meant it failed. So that was that. So the French have not moved anywhere other than just unlimber their guns, which is little bit of a disaster. Well, potentially could be very bad news for them. So I might as well start over here with the French gun battery. It's 22 inches towards that large Russian column, which I think will be 2 dice firing. Let's see what it can do, see if it can have any success. Huh, not really. A 2 and a 1. I'm not being biased, honest. I think that's probably, well, those voltigeurs might be able to fire at that column too. Looks like that's in range. So they're 2 dice needing 4s, range down to 5s. They get a disordering hit, and that could be crucial. That could be crucial. Because that means that column won't be able to go anywhere next turn. So let's roll for their save, 4+. So they don't save either. So they take a wound. That's probably solved the problem this turn for the French. So moving across, nothing to fire at here. These cannons here probably play on the village. So it's 24 inches or thereabouts onto the village. Let's put the angle right. Will be 2 dice needing 4s, -1 because the target isn't clear because it's in buildings. So that's going to be 4s to hit, 5s to hit, sorry. Oh, a disordering hit and a 6. Now they would save on a 4 but go down to a 6, but then they get 2 for the cover, so they're actually saving on 4. And they fail. So that's a wound and a disorder on the Swedes in that building. There we go. And then moving across, the voltigeurs, the Cleve-Berg voltigeurs will fire onto the same unit in the buildings. They are a small unit, so I think they only get 2 dice. Let me just double check that. Yeah, they only get 2 dice. So hitting on that will be a 4, obscured down to 5. But they are sharpshooters, so they do get a reroll, which is lucky because they missed with both. Still missed, so no joy there. And that's pretty much it. So lucky for the French, they managed to disorder that column over there, because otherwise they might have been facing a big charge by a big column of Russians trying to slow the French down. Anyway, Allied turn, and I'll be back. Okay, the Allied turn 2. Not an awful lot happened, to be honest, because Swedes didn't really need to do anything. They're just still defending over the back here. And on the other front, the Russians had an absolute nightmare. So the first order was to try and move this unit into this built-up area, and it failed. So that meant the brigade orders had finished. There was nothing more could be done. The CNC, who's there, decided to try and bring the grenadiers out to support the column there, but that failed too. So that was the end of the Allied turn. Nothing happened. I haven't forgotten to do it. The column on the end of the French line there shot 1 dice onto the Russian column, but failed to do anything because you only get 1 dice anyway. The Russian column will return the favour. It's going to be 2 dice because it's a large unit. It would be 4. It's long range, so it goes to a 5. It's disordered, goes to a 6. So 6s and misses. Oh, it's poor shots as well, so that would have been even worse. So probably couldn't have hit. The guns, they're probably firing at that. So the Russian guns will fire at that column there. It's 32 inches, which means it's just 2 dice needing 4. So it's 2 dice needing a 4 down to a 5 because of range. Missed. And that is everything on the Russian side, I think. Oh, did I did fire that column, didn't I? Yeah. So over here, let's start with the gun. Cannon will fire, I think, the same target. It fires at the this column here. You can just about see that one. It's going to be 1 dice, needing a 5. Nope, missed. This built up area can't do anything, so we're into these guys here. Excuse me, spinning around. So, I think probably makes sense for these guys to fire at the voltigeurs just to try and put some hurt on them. However, we only going to get 2 dice because they're firing out of 1 face. It would be 4s, but they're an obscured target, which makes it 5s, and they're also disordered, which makes it 6s to hit. No effect. The cannon, the pair of cannons in the wood there. What shall we do with those? I think they'll continue to play on the line that's here. I think that makes sense. So they get 2 dice, hitting on a 4. That's 1 hit. These are saving on a 6, which they do not save. So they're now up to 3 wounds, but they're not disordered anymore. And then we've got the disordered voltigeurs, or riflemen here, who will probably fire on the voltigeurs out there. It's long range, 2 dice. They are sharpshooters, so they're hitting on a 5 because of the range. So we'll show that in there. Hang on, can't quite see it. So they're firing. There's a nice line of shot through there. It's going to be 5s to hit with a reroll. 1 hit. Actually, it'd be 6s to hit because they're target in skirmish. So that was all misses. So yeah, not really much effect on the allies either. They'll take the disordered markers off, and we'll move to French turn 3. So turn 3 for the French and Berg troops here. Very productive turn for them. This battalion here of Cleve-Bergs had actually gone shaken, so the commander has moved to take a wound off and so they're no longer shaken. The 2nd battalion has moved up in support, only got 1 move sadly. The light infantry decided to stay where they were, the cannons likewise. The 3 battalions in column managed to get 2 moves off, and have moved up and now threatening the buildings. However, they're going to take a fair bit of fire, but that's their job. Over on this flank, undeniable about what to do with the French here. In the end, decided aggression was the better option. So the light battalion has charged in against that large Russian battalion. It's supported by 2 other battalions coming alongside it. The 2 other battalions that had blundered in the first move have moved across. They got 2 moves, slowed down by the hedgerows, but they're there, coming up in behind. And the only downside really was the voltigeurs were aiming to move a little bit towards the flanks of those columns over there, the Russian columns, but failed its order, so didn't move anywhere. So and because I'd used the commander-in-chief who's over here on this flank to command those battalions, there was no re-roll available. So yeah, so we look hand to hand here, and we got a bit of shooting. So we'll start the shooting. Might as well start with the French cannons. I'm not sure they can actually see an awful. Well, they are on a hill, so I guess they could do a bit of counter battery fire at the enemy artillery. What's the range to them? 44. 44 inches for a cannon. Just check the distances. It's just in range. So they get 1 dice, firing at B4s, range 5, disperse target 6s. Nope, missed. The voltigeurs, I've already measured the range. They are actually out of range. The only thing they could hit was the big column, but obviously now that that's charged in, been charged into, they can't fire at anything else. So we'll move back over to this flank. Excuse me. So where do we start? Let's start with the columns. They might as well fire since they're advancing. So we'll put these 2 columns on this building. Let's start with those. They'll probably, yeah, well, 3 and a 1 is going to be a failure. They would have been 4. Are they within 6 inches? Yes, they are. So that would have been 3s, cover back to 4s again. The other column will fire at this building here and does get a hit. The Swedes inside will save on a, well, they get +2 on their saving roll, so they do save that. Back here, the artillery, well, the only target they've got is this building here, so they'll fire at that. 23 inches gives them 2 shots. Will be 4s, cover 5s. Two hits there. So the cannon, the guys in the building would save on a 4. They would go down 2 for being hit by cannons, but they get it back because they're in defence, so it's 4 pluses to save. They save them both. That's rather good. The voltigeurs over here will likewise fire at that building. That's 4s, 5s to hit. And they do get a reroll, I think. Yes, because they're sharpshooters. So 1 hit. Saving roll for those fellas. Saved again. These guys here can't really see anything. So that is all the French attacks. However, we do have some combat. So the Russians first of all get some defensive fire, receiving the charge. So they're a large battalion, so they get 2 shots. Will be 4s. Closing fire is 3s, so 3s to hit. You get 1 hit. Actually, they're poor shots, so they would actually go back to 5 again. These guys saving roll. They do not save, so they take 1 wound, but they're not disordered, which is very useful indeed. Now, okay, so the Russians get 8 dice because they're a large unit. The French get 6. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8 for the Russians. 2, 4, 5, 6 for the French. So we start with the French. They are hitting on 3. Well, it'll be 4. Charging in makes it 3. That is it. So they did. Well, I can't see the dice. Hang on. So that is 2, 3, 4 hits on the Russians. The Russians in reply needing 4s. That is a 6, 2, 3, whoops. So they get 6 hits in reply. Now the saving roll for the Russians is 4s, I believe. Just let me double check the stamina of these guys. Not stamina, the yeah, morale of. Oh, they're also tough fighters, so they get to re-roll 1 miss. So they actually get 7 hits in total. We'll do some saving rolls. So the French suffered 7 hits. They have a saving roll of 4, but they get past the charge, which I think gives them +2. So they're saving on 6s. Sorry, saving on other way round. So 4s down to 2s. So anything but ones, really? Yeah, absolutely right. It is +2, so they're saving on anything but ones. So they actually only suffer 1 loss out of all of that. Now the Russians are also in column, so they're saving on anything but ones as well. So they also save all their rolls. So the end result of that is the Russians cause 1 casualty on the French. And win by 1. However, both are supported, so the upshot is the Russians still win by 1, and the French have to take a break test, which they throw an 8 for. So they will be perfectly okay with that, I think. Let me just double check. Hold your ground. So they stayed locked in. So that is that. However, the Russians have won that combat, have also put an extra wound on the light battalion that they were going up against. I think I've done that right. Both are in attack column, so I don't see why not. They get the +2 morale save. That's that. So on to the Russian, or the Allied turn. So very successful turn for the Allies. Started not so well. The the infantry battalion tried to move into the building for the 3rd time, or 2nd time, I forget now, and failed again. However, I did use the CNC reroll, and they succeeded, which was very lucky because then the other battalion managed to get 3 moves, moved down the road, and formed out into line there, up against the voltigeurs. In the centre here, the Grenadier battalion got 2 moves and charged into this French column here. The other one stayed to support. Not so much happened on this side of the table. The Swedish battalion, which had moved over to support the woods, has now thought the threat from all these massed columns is more to be taken more seriously, and has moved across to provide some support to the buildings. So we're on to some shooting. Whoops. We'll start over here, I think. So first up, we will shoot the column with the half battery. It's within 6 inches, so you're only going to get 2 dice because it is a half battery. However, it is hitting on +1, so it's would be a 4 down to a 3 to hit. Managed to get 1 hit. Saving roll is at 6 and is failed, so they take a wound. The battalion here in the middle can only fire 2 shots out front, so I think I'll concentrate fire on the same battalion. No, yeah. No, fight the middle one, I think, which is 2 shots needing 3, because again we're at close range. Gets 1 hit. Saving roll for the column. Goes down to gets 1 back, doesn't it? So that a 4 it rolled, so that would be a pass. Next battalion along is this one in the building. We'll fire at the end one, so it gets 2 shots out there at the column, again hitting on 3s. 2 hits. Saving roll will be 3. Save them both. And might as well fire the remaining shot, because it does have 3 rounds of shooting. Fire the other 1 left out of this building onto the voltigeurs. It will be a 3, sorry, it will be 4 down to 5. They do actually hit. The voltigeurs are saving on a 4, and they fail, so they take a wound. Moving back here, just about, oops, sorry. You can just about see the battery in the woods there. We'll continue to play on the... I think they're actually going to change target and fire at the voltigeurs. They are going to be harder to hit, but so it's going to be 4 to a 5. But they do get, I think, within... Has my tape measure gone? No, still only 2 dice. Hitting on a... what did I say? 5. No, missed. That's frustrating. I was hoping for a disorder hit there. or at least another wound of some sort. Right, so that's the Swedes side of the battlefield. We'll hop over to the Russians. So we'll start with this Russian battalion in line. We'll fire at the voltigeurs. It's effective range. So it would be 3 shots, but it's a larger battalion, which means it's 4 shots. They'd be hitting on a 4, but they're poor shots, and it's a skirmish target, so 6 is to hit. Got 1 hit, so that is a hit and a disordering hit, but they do save it, so they're just disordered. I don't know that these Russians here, I'm not sure these Russians here got much of a target. I could fire at that column there, I guess. Yeah, so I'll fire 2 shots there. It's going to be 6s because it's 4, long range 5. They're poor shots, 6s. Nope. The cannon, the battery here on the hill will fire at this column here. 21 inches, so that's 2 shots. We'll be hitting on a 4. That's a disordering hit, which is actually quite crucial, and 2 hits. So they would be saving on a 4. They get +1 for being a column, so that makes them a 3, but they lose 2, so they're 5s. So they save them both, but they are disordered. No, sorry, other way around. They lose 1 there. Oh, I'll get myself confused. But they are definitely disordered, and they take 1 wound. So, into the massed melee here. The French columns get to fire at, or the French column gets to charge at the grenadiers coming in. It's only 1 shot, but it is hitting on a 3. They roll a 4. Saving forward by the Russians, they save it. So, no effect. So we've got some some combats to do again. So this isn't going to look so good for the French here, actually. So I believe because both sides are still in a column, because they're not disordered, they get the benefit of the saving roll. So we've got Russians get 2, 4, 6, 8 dice on this combat because they're a large battalion. They also have +1 because they won the last round, which is why they've got the arrow there. So they're hitting on 3s. Oh, not so good. They managed to roll 3 misses. So that's 5 hits. 5 hits against the with the Russians, and then the French have 6 dice and they're hitting on 4s. Oh, also a lousy roll. They only get 2 hits. Okay, so French are saving on a +2 for being in column, so they're saving on anything but 1s, and they do lose 1. That was not what the plan was. So they take a 3rd wound, which means they are shaken. Oops, wrong die, wrong one. Which is not great for them. The Russians had 2 wounds, didn't they? So a roll for those. They are also saving on anything but 1s, but double 1. Oh my goodness. Now the Russians are a big column, so normally Russians have 4 stamina, but a big one makes them 5 stamina. They're very powerful in a big unit, maybe too powerful here. So they actually don't. Yeah, but they still lose it, so they're not shaken. So they've lost 2 wounds to 1 in that round, so they have lost the combat. However, they are supported by their friends back here, whereas the French are no longer supported because that column is engaged in combat. So therefore it's a straight up draw. Now nobody's suffered excess casualties, so I don't believe either have to do break tests. So the upshot of that is that the French didn't start the melee shaken, so they don't need to take a break test, and the Russians didn't either, but nobody is deemed to have won that combat. So it will continue next round, but the French are shaken. So the other combat, it's the Russian grenadiers charging in Now those fellas have 7 dice, and they're also tough fighters. So 2, 4, 6, 7 dice. They are hitting on a 3 because they get +1 for charging. So those 2 are misses. So they got 5 hits out of that. The French hitting back have got 6 dice. They are hitting on 4s. And they only got 1. Oh dear, oh dear. Right, so that's not so good again for the Russians, for the French. So the French inflicted 1, so that's a saving roll of anything but a 1 for the Grenadiers, which they passed. The French column, that's still not happy that anything but a 1. That does seem too much. But it is say +2, so they would be saving on a 4, which makes it down to a 2, so it is anything but 1. So they save everything too. So that is a complete draw. So yeah, that was a flat draw in the combat. But the French actually are they allowed to be supported by disordered troops? That's a good question. Good question, Dom. Let's have a look. Yeah, I can't see why they wouldn't be. So actually, in the result of this combat is the French win this round of combat. However, there are no losses done, so it continues next turn. And that is the end of the Allied turn. So I'll move on to turn 4 in a minute. The French get some reinforcements coming on, which I think they might actually need. These Russian troops have got down the table quite quickly. But it's just where do you put the supports? Interesting. Anyway, be back in a minute. Okay, so turn 4 for the French, and a fairly pivotal one, I think. Not much happened over here in this grand melee, because there really isn't anything can happen. But in the centre there you can see the 2 battalions that had originally blundered to the right of the gun battery move forward and tried to charge that big Russian battalion in line, because I realised I made a mistake with the Russians. Should have kept them in column. But only managed to get 2 moves off, even with the bonus for pas de charge. So they're just short of being able to smash into that line. Voltigeurs obviously can't do anything because they're disordered. Moving across, whoops, excuse me. In the Cleve-Berg area, those guys there, there's 2 of the 3 battalions managed to get initiative charge straight into the buildings. The one in the centre is supporting. Over here, the Cleve-Berg battalion here, which has got a couple of wounds on it, formed up into column and moved forward 1 move. Meanwhile, the battalion that was behind it went straight through, got 3 moves, and has smashed into the Jaegers holding the wood. That'll be an interesting matchup. You may have just caught here, the French reinforcements have arrived. We have 2 battalions. They look like old guard, but I'm playing them as grenadiers, backed up by some Hessian troops here, and this is Portuguese Legion, and their guns. They got 3 moves, moved straight up through the difficult ground, and are ready to support the attack on the village. So it's going to get interesting for the Russians. I'll be back in a second when I've changed the battery on this camera. Right, let's start with some shooting from the French. These disordered voltigeurs will fire. They get 2 shots. It'll be a 4 down to a 5 because they're disordered. Oof, double 1, but they do get a re-roll. Oops. Nope, nothing at all. The 2 columns there might as well fire at the line as well. You only get 1 dice from each. They are hitting on a, well, I think they look like they're within 6 inches, so that is 4 down to 3. 1 hit there. The Russians have a saving throw of 4, which they save. so no effect there. This battalion here, don't think you can actually see anything. Nothing in range anyway, so we'll just take its disorder off. The battery here, I suppose it probably can fire at that Russian line over there. I only get one dice because it's long range, and it's firing overhead, so it'd be 6s to hit. Rolls a 2, so that's a miss. Moving across, excuse me, this gun battery can't really see anything to fire at because that's a melee, and it can't see the Swedish battery in the trees because of the voltigeurs, so no shooting here until we get to the voltigeurs themselves. That might, oh no, they can't fire, they'll have to fire at the gun line. Whoops, put that so you can see it. So they'll have to fire at the gun line here. So that's going to be 4, long range 5, cover. So they're going to be lucky 6s basically. But they do get a reroll. Oh, they get a 6. That could be important, actually. That could be very important. Just put a counter against them. So we've got some defensive fire. So let's start here with the voltigeurs, or sorry, the Jaegers here in the woods. I did debate whether to fire, whether to stand or not, but I think they've got to try and defend the woods. So they're going to fire 2 shots at the closing column, which is going to be a 4. Closing fire makes it a 3. They roll nothing with the first, but they do get Rolgus there. Reroll. No, nothing at all. Absolutely nothing. So no good at all. The guys in this building will fire at that column, which again is going to be 3s. They get 1 hit. Saving roll is saved, so no effect. The guys on the far side will fire at 2 shots at the column that's charging them. They get 1 hit, which is not saved. So that's a casualty on that French unit, or that Cleve unit. So put that on there, puts them on 2. Now, what to do about the artillery? There's that half battery there, which I think can provide supporting fire because they're beside that target building. Whereas here, no, I think you have to traverse it, don't you? I think they have to run in front. So I'm going to rule that neither battery can actually provide support fire. Correct me if I'm wrong. Moving over, so there's no other shooting on this side, so I think we'll just move on to combat then. So over here, this column, whoops, destroy this unit. So this big Russian unit is beating up on this light infantry unit here, which is shaken. So the Russian, however, didn't win. It was a draw last turn. So it's going to be 8 Russian dice, who will be hitting on a 4. Ooh, that's a nasty roll. That's all but 1. So that is 7 hits. Ouch. The French column, 3, 4, 5, 6, hitting back, 2, 4, 6, be hitting on 5s. And they have a pretty good roll, actually get 3 out of that. So Russians are saving on a 3, sorry, because they're in column. They save 2 and lose 1. And the French have 7. And they save, so they're saving on it, would be a 4 down to a 3. So they lose 2. So they suffered 2 losses in that melee. Now, because they are already shaken, they need to take a test. They also have 2 excess casualties. Oh, that's 7. So 7. They are 2 excess, so take that off. They lose another one because they are shaken. At least I think that comes off. Let me just double check. No, they don't. It's only if you're disordered you lose 1. So they're on a 5 in hand-to-hand combat. Retires 1 full move and becomes disordered. So 12 inches back. To there. So they are back to 3 losses because you lose the excesses, but they are shaken and disordered. Which is not so good. Russians can't really do anything there because it was a stationary combat. So the next melee is rather better for the French because they won the last one. They get 2 for 6 dice. The Russians get 2 for 6, 7 because they're grenadiers. So the French are hitting on a 3 because they won the last round. And they do pretty well. They get 5 hits. Very nice. And the Russians, with their 7, are hitting on 4s. Whoop. Oh my goodness, and they do pretty well too. They get 5 hits too. So 5v5. So let's do the French saving rolls. They lose 1 man. So 1 casualty. The Russians lose 2 men. There we go. So, in the combat, the French have won by 1. They are supported, which gives them 2. The Russians are also supported by 1, so that gives them... so it's a negative of 1. So it means the Russians lose the combat again. They will have to do a test. No, they won't have to do a test because they didn't... Oh no, they did lose the combat. So, rolling the dice, they throw a 10. There's no minuses because they're fine, so they stay locked in. So, it continues again next round with the French having the objective, having the initiative. There's no more combats on this side, so we'll move over to the other flank. Okay, so we're going to start on the far side. We've got that Cleve-Berg battalion charging into the buildings. They get 6 dice. They are hitting on a... Do they get a charge bonus for going to a building, I wonder? Seems so. So they're hitting on a 3. Oh, that's a pretty lousy roll. Only got 2 hits out of that, which is unfortunate. And the Swedes fighting back only get to fight with 2 figures, 2 dice out of their 6. That's the rules on fighting from a building. They get lots of defences, but that's it. So they are hitting on a 4, which means they only get 1 hit. So it's 1v4. So the the Cleve-Berg to save theirs, they do not save it, which is very unfortunate for them because that actually shakes them on 3 casualties. The combined fire and everything else has affected them. The Swedes in the building, they get a +2 on their saving roll, and they save them both. So therefore the Swedes win the combat by 1. They are also so the Swedes are win by 1. They cannot be supported when they're in the building, so that's 0. So they don't get any support benefit. The Cleve-Bergs, I think they're going to put that battalion in to even that out, so it's a flat draw. However, the Cleve, no, so it's a flat draw. There's no excess, So nobody needs to take, so they do not need to take any tests because they didn't start the combat shaken. So that's a draw, pure draw. Into the other combat here, again you've got the Swedes with 2 dice needing a 4, they get 1 hit, and the Cleve-Berg having 6 dice needing 3s. Much better roll from them on this side, so they get 5 hits on the Swedes. So this, the Cleve-Berg to save would be 4, goes down 2, so that is a save. They save their test. The Swedes, they get +2 as well, so they save everything. So that's a flat draw as well. So they stay locked in. No morale checks because nobody suffered any losses. Nobody's shaken, so they stay as they are. Which is a little disappointing for both sides, I think. The Swedish Jaegers here, they may be in a bit of trouble. Just see how many dice they get. So they're going to get 4 dice. Oh, just drop the dice right underneath the table. 4 dice hitting on a 4. And they get 2 hits. The column going in is hitting on 6. They are hitting sitting dice needing 3s, and they get 4 hits. So 4 plays 2. The Jaegers suffering their 4 losses. They do get cover of 1 there, so they're saving on a 3, and they save 2 of them. So they suffer 2 losses, which, because they're a small unit, makes them shaken. My thingy's gone. There we go. Oh, in fact, it puts them 1 over because they already had 1. So that's not good for them. The Cleve-Berg have 2 to save, and they save them both. Which means, because they won by 2, I don't think skirmishers can be supported, can they? No, can't be supported. So they should have retired. They should not have stood. Mistake by me. They are 2 down. Sorry, they are 1 down because they're 1 over their break test, over their stamina. They throw an 8, which down to a 7. 7 holds its ground. Okay. So it stays locked in, but it is shaken. And that is the end of the turn for the French. So I will move the Allies and we'll be back. Right, it's been a very exciting turn this time. So on this side of the flank, this flank of the table, so to speak, not much has happened because everything's locked in combat. So this Swedish reserve battalion, which has been doing a dance backwards and forwards, has turned around and moved back. I was trying to bring it all the way round behind the light infantry, but it only managed to get 1 move. So that's all it could do. Nothing else is really going to happen over on this side. It's just ongoing melees. But on this side of the table, things have got very exciting. The Russian battalion, the large battalion here, formed up and charged the column there, a French column coming at it. The battalion that was sitting in this built-up area formed up and moved out. Couldn't quite contact the voltigeurs there, but it's close to. In fact, that disorder comes off because they didn't do anything last turn. Over here, the Russian battalion that was supporting here basically got 3 moves, turned and charged that French battalion in the flank. I did debate what to do with the big battalion here, but given the fact this one here may well lose, I took the opportunity to take a wound off this big battalion, so it's down to 3, which gives it 2 before it becomes out of action. Now it may just get that back from the artillery, but I think that's probably not a bad thing to do. So that's it. We'll do some shooting next. I don't think this gun battery can really fire at that battalion that's sitting there, because it's got to fire over that Russian, which is probably going to put too much, going to be too far. So it's probably going to fire counter battery at the, oops, so instead it's going to have to fire counter battery at the French battery in the distance, which means only 1 dice be hitting on a 6, which it misses. We've got, I might as well do it while I'm here. So closing fire for the French, that battalion can't because they've been hitting the flank, and this one can, so it's going to be 3. It throws a 5, and the saving roll for the Russian is saved, so no wound there. Over here, this column, we might as well fire on the voltigeurs. It's going to be 4s, 5s to hit. No effect. So nothing happens over here. On this side of the table, we've got ongoing combat. I'm thinking this gun could fire there, but I think it's got to fire at that Grenadier battalion coming through there. So we're at 26 inches, so I think that's just 1 dice. We'll be hitting on a 4, which is a hit, and it is saved, however, by the cat. Even with a +1, it threw a 6. Nothing over here, nothing over here. This gun here is going to have to fire at the French voltigeurs. It's 2 dice hitting on a 5. Ooh, disordering hit, and they're saving on a, oh, it's at medium range, isn't it? So it's going to be a -1, so it's a 5, and they do not save. So that will shake that unit. So it's its 2nd wound. So the voltigeurs are shaken because they are only a small unit. Actually, it should have been -1 on that gun firing, but it still threw a 6, so that's fine. So it's 6, so it's disordered as well. The voltigeurs are disordered as well. Where's my disorder markers? Actually, I might as well take it off the gun because that's coming off anyway. So they're shaken and disordered. Right, we're into some hand-to-hand. Let's start with this one, which probably isn't going to go so well for the Allies. So the the Jaegers are on 4. Whoops! Especially if they drop a man off the end of the table. They're on 4 dice. They are hitting on a 3. No, other way, hitting on a 5. Get 2 hits. 2 hits on the Frenchies. All the Cleve-Bergsies. Cleve-Bergs are hitting, they won the last round, so they are hitting on a 3. And they roll 4 hits. So, French saves, they are saving on a anything but a 1, basically. They lose 1 man. The riflemen are saving on a would be 3. It would be, yeah, it's down to a 3 because they've got cover still. And actually, they only suffer 1 loss. Very good rolling there. So the voltigeurs, so basically it's 1 each. However, the Cleve-Bergs are supported, whereas the light infantry skirmishers can't be. So they lose the combat by 1. They also have 1 excess, and they will need to do a break test anyway because they were shaken. However, they've thrown a 10. on their shake test. So that goes down to a 9, which I think will be continue fighting. So they drop back down to 2 losses because they don't need excess, and the French casters winning that melee. But it carries on, much to my surprise. A very good rolling from defensive there. So let's get to building fights. We'll start this side first of all. The Swedes only get 2 dice, but they are hitting on 4, which is 1 wound. The Cleve-Bergs, I keep insulting the Cleve-Bergs by calling them French. They get 6 dice. It's an ongoing melee, so they're hitting on a 4. Not so good from them. They get 3 hits. So the Swedes are saving on a anything but a 1, so they save. The Cleve-Bergs are also saving on anything but a 1, so they save as well. So that is a continuing melee. Very inconsequential fight going on there. Over the back there, we've got 2. So the Cleve-Bergs over there are. Move the camera a bit closer. So on the other melee there, the Cleve-Bergs are disordered. So, or in fact they're shaken. Sorry, 2, 4, 6. So they get 6 dice, needing 5s, and they get just the 1 hit this time. Just the 1 hit. The Swedes defending, needing 4s, and they get 2 hits. So defending with 1, the Swedes save their saves, and the 2 on the Cleve-Bergs, oh, they suffer another loss, which is a 4th. So they lose by 1, but they can draw support from the battalion beside them, which makes it +1 to them, which makes it evens. So it is a straight draw again. However, because they started the melee shaken, they needed a morale test. However, they've thrown a 9. Now they lose 1 for the excess. Means they continue to fight. So that was a very fortunate morale check there. So that continues exactly as per last turn. Inconclusive fights. We'll go over the other side. Okay, so we're heading into the Russian side of the game, of the table. So we have this ongoing melee here, which the French won last turn. They have 6 dice, and they are hitting on 3 because they're winning. They throw 4 hits. The Russian Grenadiers, who haven't done that well really, considering they're supposed to be the cream of the crop, they have 7 dice. They are hitting on 4s. Oof, continuing to fight lousy. They get two hits. So saving the French 2 hits, they save them both, and saving the 4 Russian hits, they save all of those too. So this time round it is a draw, because although the French can be supported that side, which gives them +1, the Russians now can be by this big unit on the other side. So that's a flat draw. Whoops, sorry, bashing the camera. So I'll take the win away because nobody won that melee. Just continuing. Big columns smashing into each other is fairly inconclusive fighting, as it supposes. Right, on the other combat, where the French have been hitting the flank, they have 6 dice. 2, 4, 6. They are hitting on 4, but -1 for being hit in the flank. Oh, they did pretty. That's a reroll. Did pretty well, really. So they got 3 hits on the Russians, and the Russians hitting back are got 6 dice hitting on 3. And they get 5 hits on the French. So the French are saving 5 hits, and they save all but one, and the Russians are saving 3 hits, and they save them all. So the Russians win by 1. The French can't take support from this column here because it was used on that column, that combat. So that means the French lose by 1. So they do a break test at flat. Oh, that is horrible. They threw a 3, which means they are destroyed. Well, they rout, sorry. So that column did not like getting hit in the flank at all. Guess which unit's the freshly painted one. So now I believe they will be this Russian battalion here will be able to continue its charge, but since that's an existing combat, we'll wait on that. So this could be a really nasty turn for the French on this side of the field. The big Russian battalion has 8 dice, hitting on a 3. Tried its best, only got 6 hits, only 6 hits. So 6 hits on the French, and they hit back with 6 dice, hitting on 4s. And they get 4 hits. So both sides missed out on 2 hits. Saving throws for the Russians, they lose a man. They'll get 1 wound, sorry. And the Frenchies, they lose a man too. So it's a draw in the combat, but the French are not supported because the voltigeurs can't support because they're in skirmish, whereas the Russians have a support, so the Russians win by 1. So a break test for the French, they throw a 10, so they're perfectly happy for the moment. Now, I don't think I can charge into that existing combat because that is an existing combat and you're only allowed to do 1 combat in these rules. So I'm going to say that these guys can turn this way and be prepared to face the threat coming that way. I think that's a realistic thing for them to do. If not, it's my game, I'm doing it how I like. Right, so that is the end of turn 5. First blood to the Allied side, destroying a French battalion. Everything else is fairly inconclusive. Somehow the Swedes are holding on in the far wood over there. I'm very surprised. I did not expect that to happen. I thought it was a mistake. The Jaegers should not have stood. They should have fought back. But as it was, they didn't, and somehow they've stuck in. The combat in the buildings is extremely inconclusive, so nothing much is happening there, mainly because the Swedes are only fighting with 2 dice, so there's a limit on what they can do against those columns. But what will be interesting is what happens with these big reinforcements coming through. Another sledgehammer of French coming their way. Over here I think the Russians are actually performing pretty well. These big Russian battalions are very powerful and they're sticking around quite well. So I'll be back on turn 6, I think it will be, with the French movement. So French turn 6 was a bit of a disaster. Simple ones, first of all, the battalion there charged under initiative into the Russian battalion there, but then it all went horribly wrong. The French commander tried to rally off a wound on that shaken battalion behind him and blundered. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't play blunder rules on general. It's just a failure. So that's how I played it. And over on this flank, similar thing happened. That Cleve-Berg commander was going to rally off a wound on the skirmishers, but also rolled double 6, so failed. The reinforcement brigade here coming through managed to roll so high it only got 1 move, despite the French at least having the pas de charge rule, which gives them +2. So they moved forward, and the Allied troops behind only moved 6 inches because they were coming out of the orchard here. The French artillery moved across. They're actually sort of there, but I can't get them in. So they're just going to go and try and get in a position on that hill. I think that's the only place for them. But that is it. So we move on to shooting, which there won't be an awful lot of. We'll start with the shaken and disordered skirmishers. We'll have to fire at the Swedish guns that are back here. They will be hitting on a 6 though, which they fail. I'll take the disorder off while I'm here. And other than that, no other shooting. The guns can't see anything. So over here, the voltigeurs can fire at that Russian column. Just 2 dice. Double 1. They get a re-roll because they're marksmen, so they hit with this re-roll. Column, however, saves on a 6, so that is that. Nothing else. Now this gun battery probably will fire at this Russian behemoth here. So it's 24 inches, which gives me 2 dice. So they will be hitting on a 4. Oh, and they get a 6 and a 4. So that disorders that, which could be crucial. They're saving on, so it's 2 hits. They're saving on would be a 4, but goes to a 5 because cannonball's at medium range. And they throw double 5. So they actually save it, but they are disordered. So yin and yang there. So we'll move on to combat. So we might as well start here. The French column. This was a draw last round. So the it's 6v7 because that is the grenadiers for the Russians. So 6 Frenchmen needing 4s this time. Show the dice a little bit because I know some people, Graham, like the dice rolls. So that was 3 hits by the French, and the Russians needing a 4 as well. They do a little bit better. They get 5 hits. So the 5 French. Oh, they take 2 wounds. That's not good. Really not good. That instantly makes them shaken. It's all going horribly wrong on this side of the table. And the 3 Russian hits, they suffer a wound as well, which puts them on 3. But Russians have an extra stamina. In fact, they also have tough fighters, so I should have had a reroll there, at least one reroll. Let's reroll that. No, didn't hit on the reroll. The Russians are not shaken, but the French are. So there you go. What happened as a result of that? The French suffered 2 wounds, didn't they, to the Russian 1. So they win. So the Russians win by 1. They are also supported, which gives them 2. The French, at best, they're supported, but they can't be by a shaken unit. So they lose by 2. So it's a break test, straight break test, however, because they haven't got any excess casualties. They throw a 6. Which I'm pretty sure is retire. 6 in hand-to-hand makes a full move to the rear and becomes disordered. So go all the way back to there. It's not looking good on this flank for the French. So they are shaken and disordered. And they've got 3 wounds. That disorder can come off those fellas, and I'll put it on that one now. There we go. So 2 of those battalions have been thrown back, shaken, and 1's been destroyed. This could be looking very dodgy for the French commander on this wing. So the Russian can't do anything because it was an existing melee against this fresh combat. So this is a fresh charge by the French. They get 6 dice and they are hitting on 3. They get 5 hits out of that. The Russians have 6 and they are hitting on a 4. So they don't do very well. They only get 2 hits off that one. So the French are saving those 2. They save them both. The Russians have got 5 to save. And they lose 2. So the upshot of that combat is, clear the dice away for the moment. So the French won that combat by 2. The Russians can't be supported by these grenadiers because they were in melee and they haven't got any other support, so they lose by 2. So it's a straight roll off for them. However, they throw a 10, so that is fine. It just means the French are classed of winning that combat. The next round they'll get an advantage. Over on the far side over here, this ongoing melee here, the Russians have 8 dice because they're a large battalion. They roll, they're hitting on a 3 because they won the previous round. They've hit with 7. Ouch. 7 hits. Right, let's roll losses for the French first. They only lose 1, however, well no, they lose 2, sorry. They lose 2 in that, which makes them shaken as well. The French hitting back have 6 dice, hitting on 4. They only get 2. And saving there, the Russians lose 1. But it was 2 to 1. The Russians have support, so they will take a break test at flat. And they roll a 6, which is retire disordered, I believe. So they go back to there. So that is not good at all for the Frenchies. So the French have been pushed back. And that unit is shaken as well. So I think this is a bit of a disaster for the French. They have suffered, they now have 1, 2, 3 battalions shaken and 1 destroyed, so that's 4. They've only got 1, 2 battalions if you count the voltigeurs, so that command is broken. The French command is broken. The French recule, which means they will need to retire off the table. Wow, that was brutal. Right, let's see whether they can get Neolin back on this side of the battlefield. The column that's still fighting against the Swedish Jaegers in the woods gets 6 dice. They are hitting on 3s because they won the last round. They hit with 5. The Jaegers are still benefiting from cover because they haven't been pushed out yet, so they are saving on a 3, but they lose 2 men on this time. That's not good. I can't find my markers, so I'll just put 2 beside them. So they are shaken again. In fact, they're still shaken from before. They fight back with 4 dice, I think it is. And they are losing, they are fighting back at 5 because they're shaken. Pretty good roll. They get 3 hits on the Frenchies. Obviously inspired by the actions of the Russians on the other flank. So 3 saving rolls, and the French lose 1. So French end up losing 1. The Swedes lose 2. So they lose the combat because they can't be supported. So they're taking a break test at -2. They still throw a 6, still throw an 8, which, as we know from the other side, is a recoil, retreat, and go disordered. So they are pushed out of the woods, but they're still viable. They're shaken and disordered, but they are still there. Which is something of a miracle, actually. So let's put them back there. So they've held up. They've held up the Frenchies. Need another casualty marker there. Never mind. Into the building fights. It's a fairly inconclusive fight so far. So the first building here, we've got 6 Cleve-Bergs hitting on a 4. They get only 2 hits this time. Saving for the Swedes. They save them both. The Swedes can only fight back with 2, but they are hitting on a 4 as well. They get 1. Oh, and the Cleve-Bergs fail. So they lose by 1. Now, decisions. They lose by 1, but they could take the support from that middle battalion there. But if they do, they can't support that one. And that one's in real trouble because that's shaken already. However, I think, given the fact we've got supports coming up, I'm going to say that they are not, which means they're going to support that side, not this side. Which means these guys need to do a break test. But they've rolled 11, which means it's all good. This time though, however, the Swedes won the combat. Moving across to the other battle, 2, 4, 6 for the village. The Cleve-Bergs are hitting on 5 because they're shaken. They get 3 hits, however. 3 hits is pretty good. Let's see what the Swedes do. So Swedes save them all. Swedes fight back with 2. Get 1 hit, which is saved by the French, who, because they have support, mean they actually win that combat. So the Swedes need to do a break test. They roll a 7, which is stay continued in combat. So that's the upshot of that combat. The situation, as you can see across the table, is the Swedes are still holding on to the village. It's a really tough nut to crack. They can't push the Cleve-Bergs away, but the Cleve-Bergs can't break in. However, this wood has now just about fallen, so the Swedish artillery is in real trouble. However, they may well get a canister shot off before they go down, and they have got a battalion coming to support them, but they are up against 2 Cleve-Berg battalions here, although both of them are on 2 wounds, which it's only 1 off being shaken. But of course, on the other flank, things are not good for the Allies, for the Frenchies. The Allies have smashed through, and that Russian brigade has soundly trounced the French, and the French are in full retreat, which means the Russians can swing round. So we'll play turn 6 for the Russians and the Swedes, and then make a decision on whether the French continue with the attack or whether they retire. Interesting. So Allied turn 6, fairly quiet really. The Swedish guns basically pivoted so they can give this column what for. I decided not to push the other battalion into the wood just yet. Thought I'd see what the artillery can do first. The general moved over here and took a wound off this battalion. Sorry, the Jaegers, which means they're no longer shaken, which is good. I think they should be disordered, shouldn't they? I think they were driven out, so they should be disordered. Not that it matters, they've got nothing to shoot at this turn anyway. Over on this flank, over on this flank, because the French are now retiring, this battalion turned about and started to move down the road. Unfortunately, only got one move, so that's as far as it could get. What did I do with this? I haven't done anything with this battalion, actually. It reminds me. I think they'll charge. In fact, that's an automatic charge. Don't even need to do that. Don't know how that works. Probably those voltigeurs will have to retire because they're broken command. I think they just run for it as I come at you. I'm going to say that because that makes sense to me. It's a broken command. So I'm going to say that these run back. Ooh, it's hard to reach this far. Design floor of this big table is being able to reach across it. So these advance 12 inches basically to there. I'll sort that out in a minute. Right. And then there we go. They've got 2 wounds. Over on this side, nothing much else happened. The commander-in-chief and the brigade commander rallied off, one off each of these, and that is it. So yeah, I don't believe I can join that combat with anything, even though it's an existing one. I think they have to continue fighting it alone. It's one of the weird things about muskets, muskets, black powder. So we'll do some shooting for what it's worth. Both of these columns will fire at the French column in the distance, so it's going to be 3 dice because this big battalion gets 2, this one gets 1. It'll be 4s to hit. It's 1 hit, which they do not pass. So they are already shaken, so it's going to be a break test for those. In fact, I might as well do it now. Pass that break test, so that's fine. They're going to have to retire anyway because they're within a certain distance of the enemy. That column there might also fire at the this shaken unit here. Does nothing. Oh, hang on, no, with 3 would be a hit because we're within 6 inches. So that is a hit, but no wound. The cannons probably fire at this column. 2 shots will be hitting on a 4. Nope, nothing at all. So that's all the shooting done. I'll come back to, well, I might as well do the melees while I'm over here because it's not really going to make a huge amount of difference. The ongoing melee here, which the French actually have an advantage in. They have 6 dice. The Russians have also 6 dice. Nobody's disordered or shaken, so it's 3s for the French, which looks like all 6 hits. And for the Ruskies, also needing 4s. They got half, they got 3 hits. So 6 saves for the Russians. Whoops, come back, dropping the dice. They suffered 1. Yeah, just 1, wow. And the Frenchies only suffered 3 losses, didn't they? 3 potentials. And they saved them all. So the French win by 1. But now the Russians have supports on both sides, so it means it turns into a Russian win. So it's a break test for the Frenchies. They throw 6, which is retire and disorder. So they will be going backwards as well. But then the whole lot were going backwards anyway. So I think this command is well and truly smashed. So this gun battery is going to fire at that Cleve-Berg battalion right in front of it. So we get 3 dice, but hitting on a 3 because we're close range, point blank range. That's 3 hits. The column, it would be saving on a 4 plus 2 makes it anything but 1s, makes it a 2 basically, but close range artillery puts 2 more on it, so it's 4 pluses. Ow! So 2 wounds, which basically shakes that formation, because they already had 2. So that will be a break test for them. The combat in the building, we'll do the other gun over the edge there. Single gun will fire at the right hand Grenadier battalion. Through a 2, so that's nothing at all. So the Frenchies, I keep saying Frenchies, sorry my darling Cleve-Bergers, they need to take a break test at +1. So that becomes a 7, which I believe is stay exactly where you are. So, which they probably don't want to do, but that's what the break test says. So we shall see. They'll probably in their own turn have to retire voluntarily. We've got the ongoing melees here. Let's move over here. We'll start with this building first here. Swedes have 2 dice again, but they have got an advantage. They're hitting on 3s. That's 2 hits. The Cleve-Berg saving. Ooh, they lose a man. So that is 1 down. They fight back with 6, hitting on 4s. 50-50. They got 3 hits, which is what you'd expect. And the saving throw. The Swedes take a loss in the saving throw. So that is basically a draw, unless the Cleves decide to put their column on the left into support, which I think they will. So that gives them, they win by 1. And therefore the Swedes have to do a break test. But they've rolled 10, so they're absolutely fine. The other combat, it was a draw, I think. Nobody did anything. 2 dice from the Swedes. They get 1 hit. Don't do any effect with that hit. And the Cleve-Bergs are shaken, so they're hitting on 5s. 3 hits, which is a pretty good result. Saving rolls for the Swedes. Oh, they lose a man. They lose a man. Oops. Bum. Just dropped him. Dropped the counter right in the middle of a unit. So that's their first wound. So they lose the combat, so they're doing a break test. They throw a 7, so that's absolutely fine. So that stays locked in. So the update so far on this wing is the Cleve-Bergs have got they've got the 1 battalion there shaken, the light infantry 2, and this one 3 shaken, and they've got 1, 2, 3. So they're okay. It's more than 50% they would need to take a break test. So at the moment, there is an outside possibility the French can still win this, but they're going to need to plug the wing quite quickly, because with the French left wing completely just in retreat, and it's pretty much been stalemate here on this wing, it's going to be quite tough. But yeah, French are made of sterner stuff, so we will continue. Okay, so French turn 7. As you can see, this brigade has had to retire. Everything within 12 inches is forced to move back, so they have done so. Over here, there's been a bit of a realignment. This battalion moved forward and formed into line, and the Portuguese Legion is heading across the ford here. The gun battery moved up on the hill but didn't have enough commands to redeploy. I just realised I haven't moved the Grenadiers. They're just going to move up behind to support the columns attacking. Out here on the flank, the 2nd Battalion swung out and then charged the guns. Maybe a bit risky because he's already got 2 wounds. And then this commander moved here and took a wound off this battalion and stopped it from being shaken. That is it. They had to use their commander re-roll over on this flank because one of the battalions failed to move, that was going off to cover the ford. The Portuguese failed to move initially. I just moved the other battalions forward. Yep, they're fine. So they will basically come forward and support these fellas. So that is the last throw of the dice for the French, I think. And we'll see what the result is. So over here on the flank, as the French retire, this gun battery will probably fire at the Russian Grenadiers that are here. They're probably their closest target. However, they're going to be needing 6s to hit. They do get a 6 at long range. That is a wound. And a disorder on that battalion. Actually, that should... I know it's French turn, so yeah. Well, they still got... That should have been off, because they didn't do anything last turn. So that is a disorder on that battalion and another wound. They're on 3. So the Russians are in a bit of a state. They're not too bad, but they're... yeah, looking a little bit suspect. Everything else here on this flank is out of range. So coming over here, the Swedish battery will fire canister at the column that's assaulting it. It will be 3 shots. They will be hitting on 3... yeah, 3s to hit because of closing fire. They get a disordering hit and another hit. So 2 hits, and they will be saving on 6s because it's close range, so they don't. So that is a bit of a... it was a risky ploy, and I don't think that's going to come off, because that is a break test for those fellas, because they now are on 4 plus they're disordered, and they threw a 3. So the Cleve-Berg battalion here routes, doesn't even make contact, and runs before it gets there. Gun battery at close range against 1 battalion. Ouch, nasty. So they're gone. So final throw of the dice will be, literally I think, will be to try and take this building. The closest Cleve-Berg battalion is on needing 3s to hit because it won the last round. Only gets 3 hits. That wasn't the best result in the world. I think the spirit has gone from the French. See if they can actually do any wounds. No, they can't. So nothing carries through. And the 2 defenders fight back on a 4. They get 1 hit. And to make it worse, that battalion goes shaken as well. They didn't manage to save the roll, and so therefore they take their 3rd test. And so they lost by 1. However, they are supported, so it's a draw in terms of the combat. So it would continue for another round, but they are shaken, which is not great. The further battalion is also shaken, so they need 5s against the defenders. And they only get the 1, which is saved. 2 defenders back. Don't do anything. So again, actually the French win that combat, even though no losses were inflicted on either side, because they are supported by those fresh grenadiers coming up behind. So it's a break test for the Swedes, and they throw an 8. So that is absolutely fine. So end of turn 7 for the Allies. I think it actually means the Cleve-Berg Brigade is now broken, because that's shaken, that one's shaken, and that's shaken, and they've lost a unit. They only have 2 battalions left intact. So the Cleve-Berg Brigade is also broken, which leaves just 1 small French battalion or brigade left to try and continue the mission, and I don't think that's going to be possible. So I'm going to call it there. I'm going to say that the Allies have managed to hold the village, but not only that, they have broken more than half of the French army and forced it back with some absolutely devastating charges by the Russians over there. Those big Russian battalions, maybe that was a bit too powerful to make them large, because their stamina becomes so fearsome. But I think the French were a little unlucky. But it was always going to be a tough nut to take the village, or the twin villages. But I thought they might be able to get round on this flank. But those Jaegers, they held them up long enough for it really to become a problem, and the casualties mounted up to the point where the Cleve-Bergs couldn't get round, and were actually destroyed in the process. So I think a pretty good victory for the Allies on my table for the first big Napoleonic game. Great fun to get, great fun to do. It's not the same doing solos, is it? But really nice all the same. So I'm going to call it there. Thank you very much for watching. If you made it to this stage of the battle, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure there were things I got wrong. Please let me know in the chat down below. And excuse the shaky camera as I move around the table. But please subscribe, like, comment, all kinds of good stuff. And I will see you again soon. This is Dom, signing out.